Hi, welcome to Romance Writers Therapy. This week we're doing something a little different. We're gonna talk about Bridgerton
Woo-woo.
season 2 because it just dropped. Woo woo! And we have our wonderful friend Katerina Stone, who has so many thoughts about
Too
it.
many thoughts.
So one of the reasons I wanted to, I was really excited when Marty brought up, hey, what if we brought our friend on and chatted? I was like, yes, we can talk about the things that are gained and lost in translation when you move from one media to another, because I believe you are a film studies professor.
That is a lovely way of putting it. I am in the film industry here in Toronto. I work as a sort of writer-director personally, and I'm a production manager on a lot of bad TV. I'm allowed to say that because I'm under a pen name right now. So I am in the film industry, and I also teach at a film school. So yeah, I mean, I definitely talk about this stuff a lot.
But then Marty was like, but mostly we just want to scream about our thoughts on Eloisa, I believe.
I'm going to have to rein it in and make sure that I'm not just bickering about her. I have so many thoughts and feelings.
Okay. Somebody needs to start it off before I just start rage screaming into the microphone.
Okay, so why don't we talk for one thing about different elements of storytelling between books and movies?
I would love to start there because I feel like, as somebody who sort of grew up writing prose and then went into other writing, I was a journalist for a while, then I went into TV writing, and now sort of have found my way back to prose. I really appreciate what the different genres have to offer.
Mm-hmm.
And as someone who loves romance, and I've always wanted to see more romance adaptations on screen that weren't just, remaking a Jane Austen film.
Yeah, that seems to be the two main kinds of romance movies that I feel like are available. It's either a period drama or it's a rom-com.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which I do love both.
Yeah.
But it feels like there isn't, enough in the middle or branching out.
Yeah, and I'm really happy that we're watching a costume drama, kind of, where somebody living is getting paid.
That's pretty cool.
I'm really glad that Julia Quinn gets a little piece of that pie.
I keep seeing people say, ooh, who do you want to, be made it, adapted next? And, I see a lot of people say Tessa Dare, and then I see a lot of people say Lisa Kleypas or Courtney Milan.
Are you seeing a lot of people say Tessa Dare, or are you saying Tessa Dare over and over?
It might just be because I follow her.
I mean, honestly, my choices would be Courtney Milan's Brothers Sinister series or Beverly Jenkins' Women Who Dare. Those would be amazing series.
Do you know I've never read any Beverly Jenkins, and I feel like such a fool because apparently she's even a Michigander. There's so many things. Yeah, apparently. I had no idea. Anyway, shame on me. But I don't read a lot of Regency.
Shame on you. It's not
shame.
It's not Regency. It's American Reconstruction era. It's really interesting. I mean, I could go on about Ms. Bev forever, but I've learned a lot from her.
In what way? What do you mean?
Oh, she just does such an interesting era of American history that I feel like we kind of, I mean, granted, I'm in Canada, it's different, but I feel like we very much graze over everything that happened after the Civil War, moving up to, I don't know, the 20s in the United States.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
And, she adds this beautiful color to the era of Reconstruction, but she also adds a lot of context. She can't help but teach me history. And she recently released a book called Rebel about Reconstruction in New Orleans. And I did not realize that former Confederate soldiers were in charge of Reconstruction and integrating Black citizens into society. And that blew my fucking mind.
Yeah, that seems like not the people you want to be doing that job.
Really
on principle.
I know personally my education has really swept over how racist American history is. There have been so many things in the past 5 years. I'm is that real? And I look it up and I'm oh my God, Like,
yeah,
there has been an injustice done in American education. But anyway.
Yeah. Well, and you know, I think that in Canada, we're having that reckoning of what we also weren't taught about Indigenous history and how it feels very on purpose. Feels very on purpose that we were not taught that.
Absolutely. Well,
Bridgerton, though.
So, Bridgerton.
So many corsets. Everything was so colorful.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Everything is very, like, visually decadent.
It's really fun to look at.
God, I really love that about it. You know, I feel like just because I watch so many costume, like, and historical dramas of that nature, like, one of the things you're always looking at is, like, did they get the costumes right? But I feel like I hadn't really considered before Bridgerton the ways that you can really play up the costuming and not so much worry about the historical accuracy of it and just say, well, what if we just played in this sandbox?
Yeah.
What if we made this as fun as possible?
Well, and like the queen's hair, every single time queen's on.
I love its purple.
Oh my gosh. When there's like roses, like rose petals made of hair in her wig. Like, it is just incredible. Oh my gosh.
And honestly, I could not give less of a shit whether that's historically accurate. It's
absolutely
fucking cool.
It's very cool. And like we've talked about this before. I'm not like I'm never going to know something is historical. Like, it's just not my interest. In most of my history, like, knowledge is in context of fiction. Right?
Yeah.
So I'm not a truist in that way. It's cool. I'm fine. And maybe other people are going to have problems with it. But like, man, the amount, I'm like, you know what? This is a visual medium and you really like supplied.
Yeah, for sure.
So good.
Also, at a certain point, so I write historical romance novels about sort of Habsburg era, sort of Central Europe, Austria-Hungary, and I mean, that requires a lot of research. And at a certain point, you kind of have to just stop and write your story.
It's funny because, yeah, the episode that, like, just went up, like, Kate was talking about this a lot, too, where she was, like, doing research because of, like, just trying to find historical accuracies because some readers are truists and how challenging that can be.
Yeah.
I remember I think I got the author wrong.
You did, because you were talking about, you said Julia Quinn, but it was, I have it in front of me. It was Eloisa James.
I love
one of them. Because I remember one of my friends who's like been in the romance genre much longer than I have, and she's such an avid reader. She remembered that I think one of these women who, you know, when she first started writing romance, I think it was Eloisa James, but you know, I'm not 100% on this. You know, she got like, whether it was not a mattress, or like a quilt or something, or a comforter. And then people got really mad about these historical inaccuracies in her books. And she was like, oh, I didn't even know people liked things to be accurate. And she was hated for a while because of that.
Dude.
Well, I mean, if you want it to be perfectly accurate, Jane Austen is there.
Yeah.
And I like historical accuracy. Like, I like learning things. I appreciate, you know, being spoon-fed something interesting that if I had, you know, read in a nonfiction textbook, I probably wouldn't have, you know, cared for. But at the same time, you know, it's entertainment. And also, I don't want professors writing romance. I want the focus to be on the romance. I mean, professors can write romance, but you know what I mean. I want them to...
But it just depends on the professor, yeah.
Yeah, if people are spending all their time where they could be writing sex scenes, you know, looking up what kind of cuffs are supposed to be on night dresses, then the sex scenes aren't going to be as good.
Well, and like really, like as a reader, I want to know the things that are pertinent to the moment.
Yeah.
Right? All that research might not even make it to the final product. Like, I don't know. I'm of the mindset that like I need to do the product and then work backwards and figure out what I need to research to make sure it's accurate.
Yeah.
Or I might spend all my time researching, and gathered I write contemporary, but I might spend all my time researching and then end up cutting out all of that research. And that was time I could have been spending on actual writing.
Yeah, and I think there's another side to it too, where people think that because it's historically accurate, therefore it's not a waste of time. It's not silly. It's, you know, it's not frivolous, you know, don't worry, like I'm learning history. Which, I mean, yes, but also why do you need that? Why can't you just enjoy your entertainment.
Yeah.
And one of the things that, like, again, about the Bridgerton and Bridgerton's success that really kind of pisses me off is I feel like a lot of people tell me, like, oh, I don't like Bridgerton. It's not actually that good. Like, why is it this successful? It makes no sense that it was, you know, Netflix's most successful show for a while. Well, like, who is Bridgerton hurting exactly? Like, what would be there if not that? Like, what are you losing out because somebody decided to make a sexy, you know, romance, colorful show with Regency full of diverse people? Like, who is that hurting exactly?
Well, and like, I was watching it on my phone with my headphones in, and Andrew saw it and he's like, what are you watching? And I was like, oh, Bridgerton. He's like, oh, it just, like, I couldn't make sense of that like scene, right? Like, he couldn't figure out the tone of the scene visually, right? And I was like, well, you know, it's Shonda Rhimes, so like entertainment comes first, is my opinion of like Shonda Rhimes. She will lean into drama to accomplish like gripping the viewer, right?
Yeah.
And so I was like, yeah, I mean, it definitely has like a very I'm watching my stories kind of feel to it at moments, but like it is really engaging and it's really fun, and I absolutely like I'm rewatching it right now and I'm happy to be doing it, you know, and I do not rewatch or reread anything.
And the look of it is so confident. That's what I love about it. I mean, I definitely use it as an example to my students when I say, you know, like, you know, film is a visual medium and you make choices with color palette. You make choices with what's going to fill your frame. Like, just everything that you see, it has to be, you know, it has to be uniform and one voice, and it has to be confident.
Well, and I absolutely love that as an example, because like even thinking about the scene of Kate going off to hunt with all the men, and in the background you just see the maid having the worst time on her horse, right? Like, she is just not equipped for this outing. And like, it's such a subtle way, and it's not acknowledged for a long time, right? In the scene, it's not acknowledged for quite a bit of the conversation, but that woman is back there struggling, right? And I just really loved that moment of comedic relief and that moment of like peppering in that very small story and giving that maid who could have just sunk into the background absolutely no characterization, but by making her bad on the horse, like, we have a sense of who that person is.
Yeah, and we don't have a lot of like working class representation on that show. I love this moment of, yeah, actually going on hunts on horseback is a huge privilege. And this is something that you could only learn how to do if you were very rich. And this poor maid,
if you were privileged to do it, yeah, absolutely,
is not equipped.
Oh my gosh. But then it's her job to do it, right? Like, there is no, like, I don't know how to ride a horse. Yeah. Like, that wasn't an option. She still had to go out and do her job.
I know, and it's so funny because it comes after this point where they're like, ladies don't hunt. And she's like, I absolutely can hunt, and I will. And her maid was probably like, no.
Come on, no.
Ladies don't hunt because ladies' maids don't wanna.
Oh my gosh. Okay, but that brings me to Eloise.
Oh my god. Okay. Oh, fuck that character. I'm sorry.
I know. Okay, because like, what's frustrating is, yes, she deserves options, right? In the very first scene of the second season is everybody outside her door just waiting on her, right? Yeah. And then she busts out with a terrible effing attitude. Yeah. For a job she has been raised to do her entire life. Like, this day was always coming. And what is your option other than bitching? Can we go with that?
If we were to have a different scene where they marched into her room and she was like, look, I'm writing an article for the newspaper about women's rights instead of getting changed, I would be like, okay, cool. But no. She just bitched.
And then she just bitches about how Wetherington, what is Whistledown. Oh, for heaven's sakes. That was, it took us a little trip to get there. But like, then she's just bitching about how Whistledown isn't the feminist icon she wants her to be. And it's like, she has her own fucking agenda, dude. Yeah. Like, leave her alone.
Yeah. Ugh. And the thing that's like the most ironic is that Eloise, constantly she's saying, why doesn't she do anything new? Why doesn't she bring anything new to the table? And it's like, okay, but okay, so the thing about historical romances or historical fiction at all is that it helps us re-examine our modern day situations through new lenses. You know, if you just carry on about something that, like, okay, but this isn't pertinent to our reality anymore, and it doesn't say anything new, and it just feels tired, you know? If it doesn't make a comment on something that we can understand, because it's such an entire world away.
Yeah, and
I'm just
Eloise's thing is, I want women to do more than just get married. Well, guess what, Eloise? Lady Whistledown is the only working woman you know.
Absolutely.
I mean, of course, besides your massive household staff, but she's the only society woman you know who has a fucking job, and you're bitching about her?
Well, and then also, like, Eloise, like, you spent all of last season trying to figure out who it was, talking about your interest in finding Whistledown. And then I've only started rewatching the first couple episodes. But the first 2 episodes, she hardly even says hi to Penelope. She just starts ranting about everything she's upset about. Oh, and it's like, dude, if you were to engage in a conversation at all, yes, she is a terrible friend.
She is also a terrible sister.
Every time she
is
that too.
She leaves her brother's wedding where he's about to get left at the altar. And she's like, sorry, I must to town. I have things and ideas. And you're like, your brother's life might be ruined, girl. Your family's experiencing pain.
All she knows is
your relationship to other people is important and not like, you know, something. So, like, I get here. Okay, here. So this is something I've been thinking about.
Of course.
You know, the mom's always, like, saying to Anthony, she's like, you must fall in love, and you must do this because you're in love with her. And, you know, like, she's always on that note. And so Anthony, he's, you know, doing his classic, you know, I think romance hero thing of, like, I cannot marry for love. Yeah. You know, it's...
Yeah.
And in a romance novel, or just a romance, we know that means, oh, you're going to fall in love. You're going to eat your words.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's like... It's very much I know that you are going to come out on the other side of this completely changed. And the thing is, because Eloise, I feel like she's doing exactly the same thing as he is. And it's like, it's proving to me that she's no smarter than he is. And I kind of wanted her to, like, you know, she's always treating herself like she's smarter than everyone around her. And it's like, well, I wish you would have, like, an ounce of, like, emotional intelligence.
Well, and I would go as far as to say we have, especially in the book, we have this great background about why Anthony feels he can't marry for love.
Yeah. He has so many reasons. And she hasn't given us any reasons why she's like...
his reason is responsibility.
Yeah.
What responsibilities do you have, Eloise?
He just had his heart broken.
He's grieving his father. Like, there's so much there.
I felt like they did a good job in the show of showing why he felt like he couldn't fall in love. Like, that fear of that loss and that pain. And, like, he watched his mom not fulfill her duties to her family because of that loss and that pain. And because duty is the most important thing to him, that would be his biggest fear, right?
That scene where his mother is, like, in childbirth, and, like, that's not in the books.
God.
But
no, it's not.
My god, and seeing Violet kind of lose herself like that was really scary, and I really felt for Anthony in that scene.
I did too. Also, the line she has when she's like, he was my air, or no, he was the air that I breathe, and now there is no air. Like, oh my god, Violet. You ripped my heart out. Jesus.
And she is such a strong matriarch throughout the series, and it's just like and I think that, you know, I think we judged Anthony, especially in the last season, for being like, I am the head of the family, I am man. But I kind of have more sympathy for him, because it's not just I am man, although it's a lot of I am man. It's also, I've seen my mother fall apart. Yeah. And I can't fall apart like that.
Yeah. Well, and then also, you know, again, it just goes back to, like, his entire life is fulfilling his role for the title and his role for his family. Yeah. You know, and there's a lot of character growth from the first season to the second season.
And it's funny because I think a lot of people who hadn't read the books and who weren't really familiar with romance were sort of like, season 2 is going to be about Anthony. Like, we hate that guy.
Yes.
And I'm like, you come around.
Don't worry. They knew why they casted that man too. Like,
Oh,
they
yeah.
knew.
Yeah. And having sort of listened to some of the book today, I have to say that the casting that they got for Kate was freaking perfect.
Right. Well, even her sister too.
Yeah.
Like, what a fantastic growth for that character too, to go from the first couple episodes where she's looking at everybody to tell her what to do so she can make everybody else happy, and then watching her come into herself and having that moment of like self-realization and like decision making for herself, right?
Yeah.
And having it fit with everything I've seen beforehand. Like, just beautifully done.
So beautifully done. And Twitter was so mad about how the Edwina plot was sort of extended in the show. Because in the book, Edwina and Kate are the best of friends, and, you know, Kate and Anthony fall in love, and Edwina does not care.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're just like, well, do they turn it into a love triangle? I don't really think it is a love triangle.
No.
I think it's just a young girl who just really trusts what her older sister says, and
then also
feels her own sense of responsibility.
Has a society telling her that, like, this is the type of man that you should fall in love with, right?
Yeah.
And, like, oh, great, he is courting me. Awesome, I will fall in love with him, right? Like, I think we also don't give enough room for how susceptible every individual is to, like, societal pressures and biases.
Yeah, and also, in the show, I think everyone's aged up a bit, but in the book, she's 17 years old.
Yeah.
Like, if you had a hot rake who had money, who was paying attention to you and said that he would marry only you, I mean, how could you not be flattered?
Yeah.
Yeah, how could you not take
he picked you.
Yeah, especially when, like, you have been raised to fulfill this. This is your only goal in life, right?
And that's what
like,
your sister told you.
I think that's what's the hardest about the Eloise. Like, let's go back. That's the hardest thing for me is, like, I agree with Eloise, right? Like, I think that's the hardest part for me is, like, I see her as, like, she's right. She deserves more options. She is a woman in society in a position of privilege, and she could actually make change. But instead, she is just bitching and pointing a finger at everything everybody else isn't doing.
Well, I think that's why we hate her the most. It's because she makes us look bad.
Yeah. Yeah. There's that whole concept of, like, white feminism, and
oh yeah, she is a Taylor Swift feminist for sure. She wants, like, she's a feminist as soon as it offends her. She thinks of no one but herself. And I really liked the moment in season 1 where Penelope dresses her down and says, like Eloise, like, people have problems.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't a game. And she did not grow from that.
No.
Also, I can't help but notice that her discovery of the feminist pamphlets came from the cute boy.
Yep.
She's so lucky she had a man to tell her about women's rights.
I know.
God, that moment though when she says to him, like, "Are you staring at me because you're
so
surprised that I'm so well spoken and so smart?" And it's like, oh my God, girl, I'm embarrassed.
I'm so embarrassed for you.
I would not say that to anybody.
And I'm embarrassed for everyone on Twitter who's like, "Yeah, Eloise stan," and I'm like, really?
People are about it?
Oh God, people are about it. It's because she's very memeable.
She is. And the thing is, again, like, her plight is our plight. It's like what Kate was saying, where the reason why these stories are so great is it really makes us look at how much our society really has stagnated, right?
Yeah, 100%.
And so, like, her plight is our plight. But, like, the difference is that, like, do something.
Yeah.
Do something and stop blaming everybody else for not being what you want them to be. And, like, she could play the effing game, be in society, and make actual observations and change, and actually have arguments with people that are like, oh, you should fall in love with this man. Well, why don't I just figure out who I'm going to fall in love with? Why don't I do that? You know, like, she could play the game a bit and actually...
Yeah, she could strategize. She could,
instead of just
you
being
know,
so petulant.
Yeah.
Like, you can sit there and you can bitch about it, or you can, like, fucking do something. No, we've said that, like, 10 times now.
I know, you're going to be cutting so much of that out. Can we complain about Colin for half a sec?
Oh my god.
What a douchebag.
Okay,
So first of all, the spray tan.
Oh my god.
How they managed to keep those stiff collars clean from all that spray tan.
It was a lot of hairspray on his neck, I'm sure.
That they looked at the mustache growth, the facial hair growth, and said, ooh, no, in the script. Like, I know, like, thank you for acknowledging it's bad and not just, like, an error on the costuming department.
Can I talk about something that pissed me off in season 1 that also unaddressed in season 2? Season 1, Penelope's in love with Colin, and they're like, he's just a boy. He needs to grow up. He needs to experience life. He's not ready for marriage. He's older than Daphne.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody was ever like, Daphne needs to grow up and find out who she is as a person. Nope. Mm-hmm. Put a baby in her. She's done.
Yeah, exactly. She doesn't even know where they come from.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
And like, that's one of the interesting things is like, contrast Daphne's story with Eloise's story. Daphne is like a saltine cracker. She is just a wafer with nothing in her. But in her story, she is wronged. And it is about sort of how she is wronged by her times and by her sex.
Yeah.
Eloise has personality, but her story thus far is just not compelling. Because, like, she doesn't experience any growth. And nothing bad happens to her. She has no conflict. She serves as conflict for Penelope, but she has no goals. Therefore, she has no motivation, no conflict. She doesn't have anything to overcome.
Well, and like, what a great friend Penelope is, that like literally she timed her release of her pamphlet so that she could save her friend from having to like be introduced in society in a way that made her friend uncomfortable. Right?
Yeah.
Like,
that's doing
something. Having all these conversations about how gross their society is functioning, and like pointing it out on the page. No one can ignore that this happened. She is pointing her finger at the queen, right?
Yeah.
Literally. She talks to the queen.
And
more
you're going
than,
to tell
like,
her she's a coward?
Any of the rest of her family.
Yes.
Oh my god.
And also, like, since when did the Bridgerton family ever suffer any negative consequences from the Lady Whistledown papers?
Yeah.
Like,
and the
literally.
one time it happens to Eloise is to save her skin.
Yeah.
And she has no ability to see past her own, like, I feel like most of it is, you should have told me. Right? Like, more than anything else, I'm your friend. I deserve to know.
Yeah.
Right?
But the thing is, like, she's not a great
She's
friend.
a terrible
like,
friend. Penelope is
nobody
a
would
gem.
have told you. Because you would have blabbed to, like, the first person you saw.
Well, I mean, that's only if she remembered to speak of anything other than herself for half a second. Like,
oh yeah, she doesn't listen.
She literally doesn't say hi to her. She literally doesn't say hi to Penelope before she starts like launching into whatever she cares about.
Literally, she just runs in and grabs her and pulls her away from whatever
she wants to be doing.
And Penelope's doing work in there. She's looking for husbands. She's getting her gossip, and Eloise is just fucking ruining her time.
And like, okay, so in the book, like Penelope's book, that's when I stopped reading because I was like, this is running out of steam for me. Because I love Penelope, and I just really felt like I don't want to say anything bad about it, but I didn't feel like it held out on its like promise to me as a reader that Penelope was finally going to get like the guy she was pining for, right?
Well, Colin's not good enough for her.
He's not, and I don't know how the show is possibly going to redeem him.
I mean, that whole book is just about how Colin is jealous of her. Professionally.
Yes.
Because he wants to be a writer. But he's written nothing. But she's already a successful writer, but that doesn't make sense because he doesn't see her as a person with something to say. Whereas obviously he has everything to say.
Well, because he's a Bridgerton.
Yeah, and I mean, and not only is that like a rough story, but I think it kind of hits a little too close to home for a lot of women. It's not the escapism I'm looking for. Let's say that.
Yeah, I didn't end up reading Eloise's story, which I feel like a lot was laid up in the book.
Yeah, that's where I quit.
That, like, Eloise's story? Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, I didn't like, I mean, book Eloise is totally different from show Eloise. Book really Eloise is pretty dull. And I think one of the reasons why I didn't love the Bridgerton series as much is because the women, like, they're pretty interchangeable. Like, they're just nice people. And the women, like, their goals are to marry and have children, which I think is, you know, fine, accurate for the time. But there's only so many different ways that you can tell that story.
Well, except for Kate's in the book was still planning on just, like, going off and being a governess somewhere, right? That's my memory.
I listened to
She wanted to marry her sister off.
Yeah, she said that she didn't want to remain a spinster forever, basically, but she'd kind of given up. She's, you know, because she was a spinster at all of 1 and 20.
I know. Again, I'm really glad that they aged them up.
Yeah, and I mean,
like 26 is still, you know.
See, I don't need that much historical accuracy. I don't need that. I don't need
not a big fan of a girl getting her courses and getting married off. Yeah.
But so she's not anti-marriage. I think she's just sort of given up because she doesn't feel attractive. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, Eloise's book,
you know who
blows.
Okay, good. Does it? Okay.
Well, so I hear she falls for an older guy. Like, she has to get her heart broken first.
It's like she's been exchanging letters with this widower. Spoiler, it's Crane from the show, who married Marina. And after his wife commits suicide and his twins have no mother, and he's like, well, my twins need a mother, so why not Eloise Bridgerton? And she's like, don't want to be a spinster, so why not? And that's the love story.
Wow, really?
Yeah, and there's some like Sound of Music-y stuff where the children are like, we're playing pranks on you. But it's not like,
that was not at all like the route I was expecting. Like, from what I was piecing together, I thought, like, before seeing the second season, I thought she was going to end up with, like, a worker, right? Like, essentially her love interest.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, and I thought that, like, because they can't wed, they've had, like, relations. I like how I can't say any of this because we're talking in terms of, like, the Regency times, so I feel like I had to be like, and then she was with child. Like, so that's what I thought, is like I thought she's pregnant in the Penelope book, and then, like, ends up running off with her workman.
I mean, I would love that. But
I mean, that's what I thought, but apparently... Man, I constructed a completely different story in my head.
I gotta tell you,
so disappointed.
That's kind of where I thought it was leading
I've been hunting for a upper class woman, lower class man romance for a long time. Apparently, they don't exist.
Well, why don't you write them?
Yeah, that's the.
You should write them.
I mean, I'll start, but people keep saying, like, there's the third rails in romance. One of them is no cheating, and the other one is women don't like poor heroes, which I don't know how to deal with because I'm so fucked up.
Yeah, well, it goes back to, you know, Regency times where we needed somebody to quote unquote provide.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly. You know how Jane Austen was like really worried about going from being upper class to upper middle class because that would be ruination? It's kind of like that, except in modern days.
Yeah. God.
No, I think it has to do with, like, you know, the the billionaire romance trope. You know, like, I feel like whenever I see that, I'm like, I don't understand it because I think, like,
yeah, no, right. Well, and I just think that it should be, like, it should not be legal to be a billionaire. No. Like, I feel like it just should not be legal. You get to $1 million anyway, you get to like the point where you are going to be $1 into $1 billion, and it's like, oh, automatically removed from you. Like,
oh yeah,
no, thank you.
And
like,
the billionaire is much less likely to be a thoughtful man who looks after you, and much more likely to be like Oscar Isaac and Ex Machina, just making the perfect woman in his cell downstairs, you know?
I have not recovered from that film. But Kate, you were saying the billionaire.
It's a billionaire romance, Amanda.
Kate, you were talking about your billionaire romance, and then we went off of the rails.
I think it's like I don't understand it personally, but like I kind of like the fantasy is that you don't have to work and you don't have to think about the real world stress of how am I going to provide for myself. Oh, well, if someone could just sweep in and take care of that all for you, well, have your cake and eat it too.
Yeah, and like that's part of why like 50 Shades of Grey was such a success.
That's why that was such an appeal. Absolutely. Yeah.
Like,
and it was like at the right time too.
It was definitely like, at the right time. Where women needed to be like needed to see someone providing when the world circumstances were not allowing any household to provide very
and back in like 2008 2010 when that was published, that was what was called the man session, because a lot of the people who lost their jobs were men, and women became sort of the household providers, whereas now we're in a woman's session from COVID. So I think the time is right for a book about a woman who gets to go to work and be the billionaire, and the guy who gets to go do Zoom school with his kids.
Aw, I dig that.
There's actually...
I'm about it.
Pippa Grant and Lucy Score and 2 other like indie authors, they did the Blue Water Billionaire series a couple of years ago now, and it is for women billionaires, and they're all in like the same universe and like stuff like that, and each author wrote a different book in the series. I have not read them. Billionaire romance is not my normal genre. The only billionaire romance that like I am like, oh, I will definitely read that is Annika Martin. She does rom-coms, and they are particularly fantastic. So that's it. I feel like the billionaire aspect like is not my favorite part, but like honestly, like the story itself is just so funny and cute.
They could just be super rich people. We don't have to put the B in front of it, you know?
I know.
Can it be somebody who has like
think about it.
Somebody who runs a multi-billion-dollar business, but who takes a 6-figure salary for themselves?
Yeah.
And gives benefits to all workers. That's what I want.
Oh, that's so nice.
I want a romance about the CEO of Costco. That's what I want. Somebody who just pays his cashiers $18 an hour.
I know.
And, just lives fine.
This is how Dan Price has such an avid Twitter following.
Did we think that Bridgerton was horny enough?
It was definitely less horny than last season, but I really loved the emotional tension, and then it brought in the heat. Like there is the scene where
there is seed.
The scene, not the seed. Ew. Ew. She is not with child yet. But the scene before Daphne like busts in the country, when something has awakened in me, when he's like, do you know all the ways a lady can be seduced? Do you know what I can teach you? And I'm like, oh no, I didn't know this about myself.
But
here we are.
But what is it, do you think, Anthony?
Yeah, please do you have a PowerPoint I can watch?
So speaking of things which
go overtime, okay?
The page to screen. So they didn't do a lot of the sexy scenes from the book, and a lot of people were really pissed off that they didn't do the bee sting titty sucking scene.
Oh yeah, I was expecting.
I don't remember.
Kate, how do you think they could have done it in a way that would have been sexy and not startling?
Oh, I remember. Yes.
Wait, sexy and not
startling and maybe a little upsetting and confusing and weird.
Okay, I thought your concern was gonna be like for the actors to like act that out. And
no, I'm pretty sure you just put her mouth on his tit.
Boobs. Oh no.
COVID protocols be damned.
Make some really convincing ones for like anime conventions, but
I thought they did a really good job changing that scene. I did not want to see that scene. That's why I was like, oh crap,
what?
There's actually bees in this. I don't want to see this.
I was gonna say I liked it. I thought that it was that it was a strong emotional moment.
Well, also like he lives in England. It's not like there's a lot of like poisonous snakes around. Would his thought really be like, I need to suck the venom out?
But they say that about bees too.
Do they?
You're supposed to remove stingers with your mouth because if you do it with your fingers, you just push it further in.
And I mean, to be fair, like that's how his dad died.
Like,
I'm not gonna ask him to be a zoologist in that room. What is it, an entomologist in that moment? Like, yeah, freak out. Like, suck out the
panic
poison.
Was really good. I thought like her like putting his hand on her chest and hers on his, like it like brought a really nice like emotional intensity and like gave him room to like have his freak out and also chill.
Yeah.
You know? And like have her be there for that moment of vulnerability.
It felt like he was having a panic attack and he needed to be centered.
And if he had just been sucking on her skin, I would have been really like, I don't think this part was necessary.
I know. Also, it's just like I was thinking about it from like a film perspective. I'm like, so they put her in makeup, they put the bee sting on her tit, and then she goes out, and then they have that happen, and they maybe do a close up or an insert on the bee sting, and it's got a little stinger sticking out of it, and then we go back and they wipe off all the makeup, and then he sucks because you don't want him to get a mouthful of makeup, and then he sucks on the tit, and like would that be good? Would that be horny for everyone?
It's not horny though.
It's
like that's the thing though, is like the amount I'd be like, that's not hot. None of that drew me in.
And it wasn't hot in the book. Not only was it not hot because he's sucking on a bee sting, but also because it's like he's upset.
Yeah. Well, and like also like that's the whole reason they end up getting married is because her mouth, his mouth is on her tit. And like I prefer the storyline that we have in the show where they end up like they just cannot fight their feelings and they end up being together because they actually love each other, not that they got trapped and then ended up falling in love or realizing they're in love, right? Like,
well, you gotta have characters who make choices.
Yeah. Yes. And like
we're just gonna keep coming back to that.
Fuck you, Eloise.
Fuck you, Eloise. The only choice you ever made was to leave your brother's wedding while he was sad.
Oh my god. What a freaking trip.
And everybody's like, the Bridgertons are such a loving family. Fuck off.
Oh my god.
Really? And also everybody's like, Eloise and Benedict have such a good relationship. No, they don't. Benedict's just a lovely person. And Eloise talks at him.
They just chat a little.
Well, and I think that like Benedict still only serves the purpose that he serves for Eloise.
Oh, 100%.
Right? Like this is not a mutual relationship still.
Oh, not at all.
He's there to be what she needs him to be.
Yeah. He's a real sidekick.
He really is.
Yeah. That's why I'm looking forward to his season, honestly.
I am looking forward to his season.
That was one of my least favorite. I mean, I don't want to... Like, they weren't... I gotta tell you, like, the Viscount Who Loved Me was one of the better books.
Mm-hmm.
Because Kate is lovely. And Benedict is fine. Like, again, the Bridgertons, one versus the other, not a huge difference. But they're really made by, the love interest. And I just didn't find his love interest, whose name I couldn't be fucked to remember.
I can't remember right now. It's a Cinderella retelling, though.
Yeah. And it was pretty literal.
Delightful. It was pretty literal, yes. The glove that he goes around. Yeah. I really wish he had just, gone around all of London trying to, put this glove on women.
Also, I love this conceit that they met at a masquerade ball and then she's like his maid or whatever for like months, and he doesn't recognize her, and then she puts a blindfold
she, like,
on.
heals him to hell.
Yeah, she's just like, oh god, there's like so much going on. Like I don't think he fucks her, but like he definitely screws around with her, and he doesn't notice it's the same woman until she's like playing blindman's bluff with children, and he's like, oh my god.
The lower
I never saw
half
your
of
chin
face.
before now.
I've never seen it.
That's
my
something I
gosh.
hope the showrunner really
hope
improves
so.
on.
Like the bee sting.
Instead of a Cinderella story, it can just be Benedict's long panic attack, and that would be better.
That would be better. I really loved in this season. There were just so many moments of like, I was like, how are they going to overcome this? Like the obstacles in front of them were really solidly in place. Like I particularly remember the wedding scene and like them approaching the wedding. I'm like, how are they going to get out of this? What is going on? Right? Like he can't marry her sister. Like that's not an option. Because if they kill Edwina, I will kill somebody. Right?
Yeah. And it kind of felt real that instead of her running out and they'd be like, runaway bride or whatever, that she would go into a back room and they'd be like, maybe not. Like I felt like that was maybe more realistic than somebody like, I think that if Edwina had just left that wedding and been like, well, you're in love with my sister, I'm off, that would have been less realistic than her being like, I need to figure out what I just saw.
I absolutely love that, like, they gave that character time to process.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I loved that.
And she's such a good character.
She is fantastic. I want to see her story with the prince. I want to see that so badly.
I'm so glad that they included that at the end. Because, look, I don't think that everyone needs to fall in love to have a happy ending, but I want that for romance.
Her. It's something she wanted. So it's important to see her goal resolved, you know?
Somebody I wish, like, I had some resolution on, and, like, maybe I'm the only person who gives a damn because no one else has said anything, is the guy from Oxford that ended up, like, having essentially 2 dates with Kate and ended up like falling into the river, right?
Yeah. I would like to go on record.
Where did he go?
Well, I think that maybe the producers were like, guys, this guy, we need to get rid of him. Get him off screen. Ruining the mood.
They could have had a shared dialogue between 2 other pretty people.
Just like, come on.
But like he just disappeared. He was like
we don't know what to do with you.
He was plot provoking. Okay, bye. And then they were like shuffling him off somewhere to just, you're in pasture now, my friend. Like
they just needed to give like Kate a reason to hate Anthony a little bit more because it was only episode 4.
And then to stare at him covered all in water. And by covered all in water, I mean wet.
That was a good scene. It had a point of view. It was artistic.
It knew what gaze it was looking through.
The framing was on point.
The taking off of the kerchief, like that very sharp jerk, very well done.
I thought it was fine acting.
I was convinced by his performance.
Yeah, his abs were really emoting in that scene.
Yeah. Oh Lord,
I didn't know your abs could act.
I mean, they came to work that day.
They were creating an emotional response in me. I'll say that.
But yeah, that guy just disappeared. Like,
man, fuck him.
Yeah, he's not gonna get a season.
No, and that's okay. But like, I mean, give me a line. Like, it was just such an unended. Like, they brought him back, and then gave me nothing. But it was just like, I don't know why I want this tie tied up, but like I do. Like, where'd he go? Why did he just disappear and never come back? Like, he actually seemed to be interested in Kate, and he never showed up again. Like, he just fell into the water, had a great attitude about it, and then never showed up again.
Well, maybe he saw that hot heat passing between Kate and his friend.
Maybe he did, but again, then, like, him flicking his eyes between the two of them being on like, in a shot would have been enough for me. Like, him, like, oh, and then fucking off. Like, that works for me. I understand now. But I don't have that.
Like, I can tell I'm not one.
Yeah. I see where the cookie crumbles. Cool.
Yeah. This reminds me of something else I hate about Eloise. Sorry.
Please do.
Okay.
Just wailing
So,
at her.
but then we had to go after Colin because I'm really not done with him yet.
Oh God. Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay, there's so much to go around. Okay, so there's this scene where Kate says she wants to be a spinster to Lady Danbury, and Lady Danbury's like, "But why?" And she says, "Okay, well,
I
you
love
seem
when
to
you
have
add the H to your WHs. But why? I can't
Why?
even do it.
It's
What way?
It's the Regency period. That's how they spoke, I'm pretty sure. But she says, well, you are a single woman and you seem to have a perfectly good life. And Lady Danbury dresses her down and says, I am a widow. I have lived.
I'm glad you've continued with that.
I know. That's not even in that word. I'm sure in the Regency times that was the way it was spelled, though.
It was.
I am a widow.
Yeah, and you don't know this, but it's actually pronounced Lady Whistledown. Anyway. Anyway, good scene. Enjoyed it. Later, we have a scene where Eloise speaks to Kate, who is, I'm pretty sure in the show, 26, and goes, what's it like to be a spinster? How have you lived your spinster life? She's like, you're free of everything here at this ball, at all the exact same social events, enjoying the exact same season. What's it like, spinster?
Like, also,
actually, okay, here's a thought that, like, just something that, like, it's the shallowest, I feel like, understanding of, like, what feminism is that the idea that, like, we don't need boys. Like, okay, cool, we're working on that. And, like, that's a good starting point. You don't, and then it takes it to this, so we must swear off love. And it's like, no, that's not the next step. Like, there was this, like, period, I feel like, where there was just like, all girls must, swear off everything feminine in order to, like, reach this true feminist ideal, and it feels like that's the crowd that Eloise is pandering to.
Well, and like, I feel like it's also based in, like, the patriarchal argument against feminism.
Yes.
Is like, like, all it's doing is feeding into the idea that, like, women become feminists and now they're men, right? Yeah. And, like, I just feel like it's like, it is the same narrative.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, Penelope makes money. And she
yes.
is gonna have a modicum of independence eventually. She's still looking for a dude. She still feels love.
Yeah, she still wants to be in love.
She wants to have it all.
Love and feminism don't necessarily, like, they're not at odds with one another.
It's just like
you can further the opportunities of, like, your gender and whatnot, and it doesn't have to make a compromise. Yeah. Like, I don't know, I hate that it's being set up this way, and that in the very same breath which it, like, criticizes, like, people who enjoy reading about romance and people who enjoy the thought of, like, romances, it also sort of sets it up to make people who want to uphold feminism as, kind of silly and idiotic.
Oh my god. And Eloise would hate people. If she was living in our society right now, she would be shitting on Bridgerton constantly. She'd be like, shouldn't we she's like, I don't watch Bridgerton. I only watch films by David Fincher.
Oh my god.
She would be shitting on it.
I only watch intellectual things.
And just, like, before we move on from her, the scene where she goes to Penelope's room and, like, trashes it
up.
Oh
to the
my
point
God.
where she's pulling up
Oh my God.
floorboards. Bitch, really?
Oh my
Really?
God. As somebody with sisters, like, I felt like so violated on Penelope's behalf.
Well, and like, what made you get on your hands and knees and start pulling up floorboards? Like,
Yeah.
what even like got you to that point where you weren't like, hey, maybe I've lost my shit? Like, there were so many steps between here and there. And then you were like, nope, she's hiding it in the floors.
And
like,
she didn't, yeah. Well, because you see, Eloise had an inkling, and her inkling is more important than, Eloise had an inkling, and it's more important than Penelope's privacy and your trust in her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And your value of their friendship. It's more important than your
at
friendship.
That point, had she even verbalized to her, like, hey, are you Whistledown? Like, I don't remember her doing that until after, like, poor Penelope gets into her room and it's torn all to shit.
Yeah, it's like, it's insane. It's like,
it is an insane thing to do.
And it's childish.
It's like, you feel betrayed. Yeah. You should not do something to hurt someone back. Like,
and like really, like, what did it prove? Okay, so let's say it wasn't let's say Penelope wasn't Whistledown. And then she gets in there and she's like, what are you doing? I know you're Whistledown. I just can't find the proof. Like, you could have said something to me downstairs. Like,
yeah,
we could have had a conversation about this before you lost your effing crap.
Or
like,
Eloise would have done her like stumbling Lady Hugh Grant, where she's like, well, I mean,
my God,
society.
So
these
funny.
balls are so boring. I had an inkling that you perhaps might have been Whistledown. And then she would face no consequences because Eloise doesn't.
God, that's the main thing I don't like, is she doesn't feel like she could be all these awful things if only she felt the consequences and then grew from them.
Well, and like,
you know, like, it's like, you can start as terrible as you want. You need to grow. Otherwise, I don't like.
Well, and like, if
this character,
she could be all these awful things if she was an awesome friend to Penelope. Right? Yeah. Like, if she actually took an active role in caring about someone else. Yeah. Honestly, I could tolerate her being, you know, the user she is towards her family if she was effing awesome to Penelope. But the amount, like, Penelope is just there for her, it's so frustrating.
Yeah.
I could forgive so many things if she was a good friend.
It's like, you could just, like, you could write it off as her being childish. But we actually do expect children to be good friends.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. No, Penelope's literally just, like, there to be another prop in her life.
Yeah. Which is interesting because in Eloise's book, at the beginning, she says she never intended to get married because she thought she'd always have Penelope. And then Penelope marries her brother. And she's like, oh, well, fuck, never mind, I guess.
I guess now that I'm the only spinster in this situation.
Yeah, and she's like very not happy for Penelope in the book.
Wow, that's terrible.
Oh my God.
Penelope's been freaking pining over your brother her entire existence.
Well, of course she wouldn't
for
have
some
noticed.
reason.
For some unknown reason. Because not only has he been mean to her in the books, and she's still pining for him for years.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, so I'm moving on to Colin. Okay, that's the mental shift here. I like how we were going to talk about the two different mediums and how they tell stories differently, and it was going to be.
And instead we're just like, now. Fucking Bridgerton. Here's some thoughts.
abs. Colin.
Fucking do something, Eloise.
Do something. You just stop bitching. Okay, but Colin. Okay, so that shitty comment he makes in the book, right, was to his brothers, where he knew the conversation wouldn't go further. Like, I don't want to make excuses for his behavior, but there's different context between what he did and said in the show and what he did and said in the books, right? So in the books, he makes a shitty comment to his brothers at their home. She overhears it because, hello, dude, you're fucking neighbors. And then there's years between here and there, right? And there's like, he goes away, he does some growing, all this stuff, right?
And so does she, yeah.
And so does she. But, like, I'm not ready to forgive him next season. Like, I'm nowhere near that.
Well, and it's...
God, the thing he said that, like, she's nothing, like, she's nobody. Literally nobody.
To these guys,
and it's like...
Who...
To her fucking face.
Yeah.
Oh my god. I don't remember him saying... Like, when did he say that? I need to hate him.
He didn't say it in those words. He kind of said, she was like, did anyone, like, who were you writing letters to? And she's... Like, he said, I started this conversation with someone who I hadn't realized,
that.
like...
I hated that.
That part.
I wanted to punch him in the face.
And then he's talking about himself?
Yes!
Like, oh my god, dude.
Oh my god. Katerina.
Can you be any more idiotic?
You tweeted that Colin Bridgerton is a crypto guy, and there have been no truer words.
So Colin Bridgerton is a mix of a crypto bro, because first of all, he's the patsy in everyone's plans. Like, season 1 was all about him being patsied into marrying Marina.
So
Season 2 is all about him being patsied into, you know, funding this emerald mine or whatever.
Yeah.
He's so credulous and so confident. He's definitely just like, this guy would be lecturing you about Bitcoin on Reddit if he was alive today. Also, there's the other side of him, which is the artistic part of him, and the traveled part of him, which is the guy who spent a, you know, semester in Europe and comes back and is like, you know, in Prague, the architecture is very considered because it's meant to be eternal, you see. It's not like here. You know, he's that guy.
He is that guy.
Yeah. He's the guy who's just like, you know, he goes to London for 2 weeks and he comes back saying lift, and he's like, oh, excuse me, I picked up an accent.
I'll have to work you into my schedule.
God, I hate it.
Yeah. I can't help it, you see, because they couldn't understand me over there. You know, British people, they can't understand. They're like, what? Elevate to what?
Have you checked under the bonnet?
Oh, yeah.
My car is made of aluminium.
Yeah. Because, you know, British people don't understand Americanisms. They don't have TV.
They don't have, they don't have American television over there.
Yeah, they've never seen Friends.
Oh my gosh. I cannot see. And this was part of my problem in the book, was he wasn't good enough for Penelope. And I cannot see how they can redeem him to the point where he's good enough for her now.
Yeah.
I would like her to fall in love with someone else.
Well,
I would like him to fall in love with her, and her being like, no way, here's my middle finger and I'm in love with someone else. That's what I want for her.
Oh, can I just... something that's just like truly bugging me is the way they're doing her.
Oh, good lord! Why are they putting it so back in her head?
They're so terrible. They did such a great job the first season. Why are they like this now?
Why?
It's like they're trying to make her look worse so that she can have a glow up next season, like they did with Eloise.
Well, they did that with everybody.
Frankly, Eloise did not deserve.
Yeah,
it.
because
they do that. With
they chilled out on Antony's sideburns.
Yeah.
So.
Can I tell you something terrible?
Oh no, yes.
I think one of the reasons why the hair is different is because the person who did the hair in season 1 died of COVID.
Oh no.
You can Google that.
No.
I'm not sorry. I laugh when I'm uncomfortable. But that is
I
why.
Understand. I was about to start laughing too.
You're just like, did they get someone new? They did. They did.
They did. Under unfortunate circumstances. Again, I'm going to make inappropriate jokes until, like, the conversation.
You know, good news is Daphne's hair looked better. Bad news is...
It did, yeah.
Someone died of COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that next season is Benedict, though. I think
think the next season is Benedict. Yeah.
I think we've got another season of maybe some growing for the two of them. But again, like, I don't know how this whistle... Like, I think they blew their load on revealing who Lady Whistledown is way too early.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think they should have kept that a secret.
Yeah. Especially... Well, I would have still been mad with Eloise, like, tearing up her room. But it would have been a decent reveal here. And, like... I feel like they showed us because not showing us with how much like intrigue around who she was in that first season would have probably pissed people off at the last season to have her ride off in the carriage without getting a shot inside the carriage, right?
Yeah.
No, I think they totally could have kept that.
I think they could have, but I think a lot of people would have been pissed.
Sitting on their...
And I mean, I appreciate having the, Penelope tries to make her life as Whistledown plotline. Like, I like it.
Yes. I really liked the use of the modiste and having understanding how the workings went.
But they have that plot line in the books. It's just further down the road.
Well, really they could have had the reveal at the end of this season.
Yeah.
And then the workings could have been put into place or revealed in the next season. I'm excited to see what happens with the modiste too. I really like her character.
Oh, she's lovely.
Yeah.
I hope she does get to go to Paris and dress people who are more appreciative of her art.
Yes.
And I would also like Eloise to stop wearing little collars.
Yeah, she does wear little collars.
Yeah. I feel like they do that to make her look younger.
And also to be like, she's not like other girls. She wears menswear, kind of.
Really?
Like a feminist.
Like a feminist. Oh, it's because we let them wear pants, you see?
She doesn't like boys and she doesn't like showing her neck.
Like a feminist.
It's how they do it. Those women's libbers. Oh, man.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, thank you guys for having me. This was super fun.
Oh, wait. We've started.
Oh,
we're
right.
Trying to
We do a thing. We do a thing now.
Okay.
Yep.
We do a thing.
Kate, tell her our thing.
Okay, so usually we try to end each week on, like, if you have any, like, particular, like, writing advice or something similar that you've been kind of working on currently. Doesn't need to be anything grand, or it can be as simple as, like, a get up every 10 minutes and eat a piece of chocolate.
Okay,
I don't know.
And if you need one of us to go first so you can think about your
I would
your
love for one of you to go first so I can think about your
Okay.
thing.
Kate, do you have something?
No, I do not.
I love that you are so good at making sure that we do this and you never come prepared with one. Okay, I've got one because I can think off the top of my head very fast. Okay, so mine is sometimes even if you're not inspired, you just have to get the story done. Right? Like if you like the course of writing a whole story, like you have so many ups and downs and it can be really challenging to get to the end and have a complete story. And sometimes it is just checking the box off the list and making sure that you've completed the story, knowing that you're going to go back and you're going to fix it up. So inspiration's great, and sometimes writing's really fun, and sometimes you just got to sit down and get the work done.
That's
Anyone
very
have
good.
anything that...
That's
okay,
very
I'm
good
like,
advice.
I feel like I was just the most Debbie-est of downers. Like,
No. I mean...
math.
I don't know. I feel like because people have this view of like writing, it's something you do when you have inspiration and you go into your dusty attic with your candlestick and you weave magic with your pen.
Your typewriter.
Not only do I think that's shitty.
I
that
picture
they-
myself with some whiskey.
Oh, of course.
I don't even drink
yeah.
whiskey, but
Oh,
that's
of
what I
course.
picture myself with.
Yes, and
Cigar
just,
and
like,
whiskey.
Papers all around you.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I feel like that is a imagining of writing which is both romantic and also an excuse to not pay us. Because they're like, whatever, man.
Ooh,
You're having
yeah.
fun.
That's a good point.
So I definitely appreciate people being like, no, actually, you just sit down in a chair and get your shit done. You know,
Pound it
like a
out,
job.
Like a job. Sometimes it's a fucking job. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, my piece of writing advice is if you have fallen out of love with the thing you're writing and revisiting it feels like revisiting your failures and not something that's fun, stop, write something else, fall in love with the craft of writing again, get 80% of the way there, And then you're going to really want to go back to your old piece.
That's true.
100%.
Yeah, Kate and I both like to have multiple stories going. And, like, there's something really wonderful about going back to the story that you, like you said, have fallen out of love with and reading it and being like, this is good. Like, who wrote this? Congratulations, them. You know, like, there's something really delightful about letting something rest and coming back to it.
All right, Kate, what about you?
Bring us home.
If you're looking through your edits on something and, like, over the course of the entire story, I think if there's, like, a part that you're not, like, you kind of find yourself, like, I don't want to read this because it doesn't excite me, and this chapter, I was just, you know, kind of grinding my teeth through it, that maybe it's, like, a plot element or a character. I think there's a reason that you're feeling that way about it, and I feel like that's, you feel that way because you know there's something wrong with it, and that's where an edit needs to be made, even if you don't want to pretend you can't see it, or maybe you just aren't quite sure what's wrong with it.
Okay, so this might be on topic for what you just said, and I can't remember who told me this, right? So it's very anecdotal, and I might get all of the details wrong, but someone was saying how, I want to say it was Talia Hibbert that they heard, saying how sometimes she's writing a character and it's just not working, and they're French. Yes, exactly. Did you tell me this story?
I told you this.
I love it. Okay, well, you tell them, and you take.
No, we've already told them on this one. We've already talked about it on this pod. Really? That's where I told you it.
Well, are you sure?
Oh my god,
I don't remember.
Yes. Talia Hibbert, I think she posted on Twitter something like, she's talking about during the writing process itself, if something's not working, and if she wants to, instead of going back and editing a new change to the plot, she just makes a note for herself and says, going forward, this character is French. And, you know, or something like that. Instead of, like, starting over from the beginning and going through everything.
The way I felt like it was applicable to your advice was that, like, it's not working, make a drastic change about it. Yeah. And see if that drastic change pulls through for you.
Yeah, like, normally I feel like I'm very against drastic changes because I just, once something is done, I want to leave it alone. I don't want to tear it apart and hope it goes back together again smoothly with whatever new stuff I'm putting in there. You know, I feel like there's so much room for error.
Yeah. I mean,
I really hate that part.
I'm a big fan of when you have edits to do that sort of change the spine of your story, to write it into your beat sheet first. And so if you have
a beat sheet.
Yeah, well,
that requires you to make a beat sheet.
But you should make a beat sheet after your novel's done, because then you can kind of sort of just do your point form thing and sort of trace the spine of it, and then all the things that are new, you know, put it in red or something. And then after you've rewritten them, you can just cross them off, and it's very satisfying.
I do something semi-similar where, like, I essentially do a map chapter for chapter. Yeah. Right? So, like, I have my idea that needs to change. And then chapter for chapter, I'm like, okay, this is where you put in that new plot point. This chapter, you're going to continue that plot point through. This chapter, all you have to do is make sure everybody's motivations are correct. And then, like, that's how I weave it through, right? And so I do have a map of what that is. But,
yeah,
I mean, I make big changes halfway through the book.
Yeah.
In the rough draft all the time.
Well, one thing that, like, the film world has kind of taught me is that before you do the rewrite, write the rewrite plan.
Mm-hmm.
So you just, like, think about, and this is, you know, it's more structural, it's more plot based, it's you know, but just, like, write what's not working. Say, like, these are the things that are going to change. These people's relationship is going to shift. We're going to, you know, have a scene here in order to, you know, show this, blah blah. And then you take that and you're like, what a beautiful rewrite plan. I'm going to use that so I can get funding. And then you go to your beat sheet and you're like, okay, where does it all fit in the spine of the story? And then you do the rewrite. I mean, again, I feel like I'm a pretty intense plotter.
Mm-hmm.
So I find that helpful, and some people don't feel that way, but I feel like when we're editing, like we all have to kind of be plotters.
I mean, I know that's when it really comes in for me.
Yeah.
Right? Because I can't sit down and write an outline. I can't plot until I'm actually working with the characters and with the story.
Yeah.
And like I can't think of anything until I'm actually like in a scene.
And I mean, I think that's one of the great things about prose in particular is that you can sort of let your characters talk to each other, and you can sort of explore the rooms that they're in, and you can, see these new things, which I just don't think if, I was writing a script, I would be able to enjoy as much.
Yeah. Well, Amanda, you want to do our wrap-up thing?
So, Katerina, do you want to tell them where to find you?
Sure. I am on Twitter at Katerina Stone Romance. I am on Instagram at I believe, at Katerina Stone Romance. And yeah, that's about it.
You're not.
I am not on the TikToks.
That's kind of surprising to me.
Yeah.
I feel like your TikToks would be really fun.
I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to use it.
That's hilarious. You make film.
I mean, I've had the app on the phone, and I was like, ah! I threw it away. I should revisit that. Also, if you are a romance author who is looking for a developmental editor, I do that. www.mikarekai.com, MIKAREKAI.
She helped me, and yeah, she's awesome. So,
and you have been raving about her,
and has been. Also, my copy editor did a read through, and she was like, I love this story, and there were no big issues. Like, way to go! So
I'm so happy. I'm so happy.
I know, me too.
I feel like your stories are like my stepchildren.
Yes. Oh, that's really sweet.
I see them every other weekend, and I love them, and I want the best for them.
I see them every other weekend. The way stepchildren should be. Okay, but you can find Kate at by Kate Prior on Twitter and Instagram. And you can find me at Marty Vee Author on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. And
did you
I
change
did like a big kid. Yeah.
Oh, I'm so proud of you.
Me too. And then you can sign up for my newsletter at martyvee.com. And if you need to correspond with us for any reason, martyvee at martyvee.com is the way to talk to us. Not Kate. Me.
Yeah, don't email me. I don't check that email.
And also you can find Kate's debut novella, Love, Laugh, Lich. Someday I'll say it correctly. But Love, Laugh, Lich on Amazon. So, listener, you're awesome. And if you haven't watched Bridgerton, we've told you a lot about it, and you should just go watch it.
Believe it or not, we actually enjoyed it. Sorry if you got the wrong impression.
Yeah. We enjoyed 90% of it.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I'm really enjoying my rewatch of it. And, I think that they made really great choices as far as, how to take this book and make it into a completely different art form. Yeah. Bye, listener. Go home.
Bye. Go home.